it is true that I am, in fact, a married spud.
He's a married spud. He's a married spud. He's a married spud.
And I do, in fact, have eyes, much like a potato. And a shape, oddly similar to a potato. So what I'm saying is, I guess I'm just Mr. Potato Head. You're welcome.
Now the question is, can you store everything like Mr. Potato Head can?
I mean, you can shove any number of things in my orifices. It just won't be comfortable. But, when has that ever been a concern for anyone?
I got a pair of shoes.
If I mash you up, can I turn you into vodka?
You'll have to consult Dan Aykroyd for that one, because I'm afraid I am not an expert in how that spirit is effectively concocted. Diamonds or no? Diamond hands or no?
Diamond hands.
Okay, well, we're getting a little starchy off the top.
Friend.
Thank you. It's I have been masquerading as an adult for quite some time, so now I at least have a few of the card-carrying requisites for being an adult human being now.
Ooh. It's always
as
good.
does, Michael the Lesser, as he likes to be known. So
It is. Yes, I was also married recently, and yeah, it's exciting, but
It's
I'm not
catching.
an adult because I'm still in school. So,
Oh, trust me, I'm aware that both of you are recently married because when I mentioned it to my girlfriend, I was like, "Oh, Michael got married, and hey, Shane, he just got married too." I was made aware. Oh, isn't that interesting that everybody you know is getting married, and yet here we are.
curious.
don't let anyone pressure you into doing anything.
Oh no, she's not pressuring me, but
Just hinting.
needless to say, gents, I might have to follow.
Well,
suit.
I think it has been a requisite for this show from its inception that somebody has to be single. So you're the one in the barrel now, my friend. Much like a man on a pirate ship, you're just waiting for the swords to cross.
Yar.
Yeah, well, I might walk the plank and walk the aisle soon enough. We'll see.
As long as we all wind up with some booty. And speaking of spectral doubloons, by the eternal, behold, it's the Disinformed podcast. I'm Shane.
I'm Michael.
And I'm Michael.
I feel like now the precedent has been set that the two of you have to just synchronize that from this point forward.
Well, I was going to jump in and do it, but then I didn't want to derail us right off the bat.
Oh, it's fine. It's
but
part of the shtick now, I think. That's been firmly ensconced in the minds of the listener.
Well, I really do feel like last time was actually Michael's fault because he's the one that typically ends the podcast, right? With I'm Michael and Zippity Zoop.
Yeah.
So really, it was supposed to be me saying, and I'm Michael, but he chimed in on my run. So he cut my grass. You're right.
You're right.
No, he's not. He's an interloper here, as of right now. Until there's an actual certification, I don't think that you get to claim credit for being the one who's supposed to tag in there. But
well,
then Shane, I would ask you, when was I supposed to go? Was as the interloper, was it on me to close out the show?
You have about 45 minutes before you're allowed to do it again, I'd say.
I thought you were going to say before you're allowed to speak.
And mute.
Not quite. But for those who are still able to hear my voice now, since I'm not running the show any longer, what I will say is what we typically do here is we like to delve into random esoterica, and in the course of explaining it to one another, we leaven in the occasional lie. That is the whole shtick of the show. It's the reason for the season, and it is not always pleasing, but we do not allow you to leave disinformed. No. We do have a denouement at the end of the episode where we explain what we lied about and why. And also, occasionally we explain what the joke was supposed to be. By we, I mean you, my four-eyed friend.
I can't leave a horse. I gotta beat it to death. I have to. Put it out of its misery.
I was about to say, your wife is going to be very upset if she hears that you say that out of context.
Oof. I can explain.
Can you, in fact?
No.
Are you drinking any eggnog this evening, since we have actually crested into the month of Mariah Carey's great, I can't say the word here. Bleep that out. Sorry, I'm not Kanye. I'm not angling for that sort of heat right now. But
my stars and stripes. No,
Carrie is coming.
Brace yourselves. No, I am not drinking eggnog tonight. And I thought about it primarily because I'm recovering from a cold and I don't want any more phlegm, especially if I'm going to be doing a lot of the talking. So I refrain from it tonight, unfortunately.
I thought you were about to say you were recovering from alcoholism.
No, I'm still in that. I'm
Okay.
still in it.
Haven't had any eggnog, but I have had the Bones eggnog coffee, which is really
Very delicious.
Yes, it had slipped my recollection that you were also on the Bones train even before the discussion began here.
Oh.
Yes, I think I did. I post
You
way
did.
back when you guys all talked.
The
Yeah,
slew of
it's totally
materials
different.
that you had. Have you changed your favorite out yet?
Well, no, like, so I just switched over to the Christmas type stuff.
Okay.
Like I had the eggnog day before yesterday or something like that. I had the white chocolate, like peppermint milk one this morning. But prior to the recent Christmas kick, I was really just all about the Army of Dark chocolate.
It is delightful.
It
Have
is.
you tried the new Nightmare Before Christmas themed flavors?
I haven't.
They're
haven't,
delightful.
but it's on the list.
They were all wonderful. I it's hard to pick a favorite.
Yeah, it really is. I had, I can't remember the ones I had. I know I had it was like a coffee liqueur one. I think that was Sally's.
Mhm.
I think that one.
No, that was a mole.
You're right. That was the mole. It wasn't as spicy as I wanted it to, but it was still really, really good.
Well, I didn't feel any tingling in either my mouth or nethers as it passed, so that was an appropriate level of spice for me.
Fair enough, I guess.
And by the way, yes, we are not officially sponsored by Bones Coffee yet, but there's
Damn
still
shame.
time.
Please.
The holiday season is upon us, so in the spirit of giving, Bones, please hear our cry.
Please. I'll do anything.
Please give me a boner.
That's
Okay.
their logo. Give me a shot of that boner.
I'm not gonna stamp that one, but who doggy. But in the spirit of the season, Michael apparently is going to be playing Bob Cratchit this evening.
Yeah, I'm gonna talk about the history of Christmas. Woo!
And consider me Bob Marley then.
Well, I'm gonna start off by saying there are 4 lies to this part 1. Spoilers. But you already all knew that.
Wait, is it 12 parts? Is
Oh,
it the
fuck no.
12 podcasts?
God.
Of Christmas?
Well, by the time you get started with it, that is certainly a possibility.
No, thank you. No, thank you. Well, it's that time of the year where we all attempt to suffer a couple of meals, or God forbid, a couple of weeks with our extended family. Sorry, I saw your face, Shane. And I lost my focus there.
You know, it's not the first time I've heard that.
Suffering a couple meals with our extended families. The ones who have some opinion or another on who won the election and other family-friendly topics I don't care to discuss. We all survived Thanksgiving already, but in that case, we only had to eat with these people. Now we're in the month of December, and we not only have to eat with them again, but in
We have to
addition...
eat them.
Oh, here's hoping. But in addition to eating with them and eating them, we have to buy them gifts. And for that matter, we have to buy practically everyone a gift these days. I barely...
And kiss our cousins under the mistletoe. Such a nice.
Which mistletoe are you referring to?
Oh boy!
Yeah.
I mean, you are pretty close to Appalachia now, right? So that's close enough, right? Roll Tide and all that.
That's right. Just the mistletoe berries just dangling on my chin there.
Hot.
I was just thinking of someone shaving their pubic hair into that configuration. It's not a very recognizable shape, but
As long as you don't see mistletoe berries, I guess you're fine. I barely
Just the camel toe.
just the camel toe. I barely know what kind of gifts I like, let alone what Uncle Jim's 6-year-old that I've never even seen wants.
well, then why the hell are you giving Uncle Jim's 6-year-old a gift?
It's
They have the gift of not ever knowing you.
It's for a lot of people that is a gift unto itself. But if
Wait a
I do
second.
know them,
You got an Uncle Jim?
Is Pokemon still
First lie.
Yeah, exactly. Is Pokemon still popular? Do they like Pogs? I don't know. This sort of forced holiday spirit gets me every year, where we have to buy well thought out gifts for people we never talked to in the first 11 months of the year. And now we have to know their every whim so we could buy them a gift. And I'm just talking about dealing with family. I don't even want to go down any sort of job related celebration that a lot of people have to deal with. You know, and we have to spend a lot of time decorating a tree that may or may not have just been cut down for the sole purpose of occupying a space in your room or in your living room, right? You're just going to throw it out as soon as Christmas ends. You're just going to yeet it out with the trash like everyone else does. And the worst part about all this stuff, we're supposed to be merry about this shit the whole time. You know, it's even in the greeting. Merry Christmas. How can I be merry when I'm spending a metric fuck ton on gifts and new decorations, which are only up about a month on average in the US, before I have to put them away in storage and hope they don't break before I need them next December?
Okay. Far be it for me to interrupt you.
By all means.
In the middle of what is obviously a very well-crafted and thought-out introduction.
Trying.
You're being a really bad Satanist right now. Not only are you talking about a holiday that celebrates the birth of, you know, a Lord that you don't believe in, but then secondarily, you're breaking one of the rules of the earth because you're complaining about something
that
you
I
need
do
not subject yourself to.
Yes,
because I don't give presents to anybody.
Would you believe me if I said this was all a bit?
I would. But
okay.
I just felt like pointing out that I do still attempt to employ logic when listening to you speak, and I don't know why you haven't disabused me of that notion yet.
I don't know either. But no, this is all a bit. I typically avoid giving people presents with the expectation that people don't give me presents, and I am happier for it.
Agreed.
For a lot of these reasons, I don't know what people want. I barely know what I want, you know? So why do we do these things for this holiday of Christmas, right? Considering the original point of Christmas was to celebrate some kid being born or something like that, right?
Or was it?
No, as far as I'm aware. Have we always done these things for Christmas? I wanted to believe in my heart of hearts that Christmas wasn't always so capitalist. And so with that in mind, I wanted to do a deep dive into Christmas. Where did it come from? How was it celebrated?
Where did
it appear? Cotton Eye Joe. How did it turn into this?
You got one.
How did it turn into this mess of consumerism that we all know and are forced to love today?
George Romero.
Well, and that has been my episode, everyone. It was primarily his Dawn of the Dead, not Night of the Living Dead, that I feel like really emphasized the Christmas spirit.
Most certainly. And Day of the Dead, no one cared about.
I honestly always forget that he did make a sequel to that. Mm-hmm.
Oh, he also had Land of the Dead. I mean, there's like 7 of these things, man.
Oh,
it doesn't stop.
I just figured it was like, you know, the night of and then the hangover morning, and that was it.
No, it's like then the 9 months of the supporting through college of the dead and
the boomerang, you know, child of the dead,
the annulment of the dead marriage. Yeah, there's so many sequels.
The basement of the dead.
Ooh, that's a puzzle basement.
Ooh, those questions and more will be explored today and subsequently the next few weeks as we look into the history of Christmas. Also, as a side note, these episodes will be a little bit family friendly in that Santa will not be mentioned. As is known, I have a small child that lives with me, one who has a habit of eavesdropping when I'm recording. And I definitely don't want to get on Santa's shit list for besmirching his honor, so he won't be at all mentioned in these episodes.
Wait, is that a lie?
No, that is true.
You're going to do a whole Christmas run without a mention of Santa?
Exactly. I'm as surprised as you.
How about St. Christopher?
Nope. Not St. Nicholas. None of these are mentioned at all. It's surprising. But there's a lot of information about Christmas.
I've been trying to throw out Berlins like every 5 minutes on this show thus far, and you're still not rolling with me. So
no Berlins. No.
How about St. Crispin's?
No. I will try my best. I learned my lesson. My lies are a little bit more complicated than Berlin, which is totally a city in Russia. Yep,
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Yes. Just like Istanbul and Athens, both in Russia. Well, one Russia wishes they had, but neither here nor
Technically,
there.
both cities
I
in
think
Georgia.
all of them Russia wishes they had.
I mean,
I think Russia would take Berlin if they could.
yeah. Now, I would be incredibly stupid if I said that Christmas is a unique holiday for its location in the calendar. It is not. Christmas is literally 4 days after the winter solstice, where the northern hemisphere has its shortest day of the year. That's a big deal, especially for ancient civilizations, because it means everything will improve from there. Sure, you got the rest of the winter to deal with, but longer days mean more sunlight, and more sunlight means warmer weather, and sunlight kind of makes people happy for the most part. Especially, yeah, Shane, you were about
You
to
said
say
it's
something?
the longest day?
No, the shortest day of the year.
Okay, no, I was about to say, so...
And from here on out, the days get longer, which means more sunlight.
Yes, okay.
Yeah. Especially because the night is dark and full of terrors, and you and your people just made it through the longest night in the year. And so,
Especially with some creepy guy coming down my chimney.
exactly.
Dirty.
Ooh, well, he will be. I don't clean that thing. And so I don't clean my chimney. I don't have.
I'm
Is
Umbo
that
Chimney Sweep.
Is that how Peter got covered in soot?
Yes.
Who's Peter?
Peter? Black Peter.
Wow, it's racist.
No, are you guys not familiar with him?
Oh, I'm familiar with Black Peter.
Okay.
I touch the Krampus frequently. Thank you.
Goodness gracious. And so with all this, it's a cause for celebration. You might actually pull out this, or you might make it out this year. Woo!
I was going to
Projecting.
say, you hit me at the exact moment where I was thinking in my head as like, and the Krampus precedes the Red Peter.
You both just got married, so I think pullout days might be behind you.
Oh my goodness.
Allow me to pretend that I'm Trump before Congress. I plead the fifth.
I'm not going to sit here and list every single winter solstice celebration, but I want to cover a few from around the world and then focus on several that definitely influenced early Christmas celebrations. Let's see. The first one that I wanted to try and be as inclusive as possible, so I actually looked at a winter solstice celebration in the southern hemisphere to start out with. So technically this will be in June and not actually in December, because southern hemisphere, their longest day is actually our shortest day and vice versa. So the first one I wanted to cover is Inti Raymi, celebrated by the Incan Empire, located in modern-day Peru. Even then, it's still not really an ancient celebration, but one occurring right before Spain wiped the Incas off the map. Of course, like I said, this is a winter solstice celebration in the southern hemisphere. It takes place in June. According to the many documents written by the Spanish conquistadors in the area, who took great pains to chronicle the Incan Empire as it collapsed from the Spanish invaders, Inti Raymi is a semi-recent celebration created by the great Pachacuti, I think. He doesn't get mentioned again.
What did we learn from the Russian episodes?
I mention his name once,
Nothing.
and nothing else will happen after that. He united the peoples of the Andes into a single unified realm to symbolize. So he created this celebration, Inti
With mints.
Raymi. Yes, exactly. In the Andes Mince Mountains, to symbolize the mythical origin of the Incan people. According to one source there was only one source that really gave me any relevant information. I had to dig deep in order to find anything about it for some bizarre reason.
Didn't listen to Cortez the Killer by Neil Young?
No, I actually don't listen to Neil Young at all, surprisingly so. Yeah, I know. Disappointment, as always.
Shane's a dirty old man. Anyway.
Indeed, I am.
That's neither here nor there. So according to the one source that gave me any relevant information, the Incas fasted for 3 days before the solstice. Before the sun rose on the day of the solstice, they, not being specific who in the source, so I presume all the Inca, went to a ceremonial plaza and waited for the sunrise. When it appeared, they, again, not being specific, crouched down before it. How? I don't know, because I'm presuming they crouched before the sun, offering what I presume to be offering what I presume to be the sun, cups of chicha, which is a sacred beer made from corn. Animals, including llamas, were sacrificed during the ceremony, and the Incas used mirrors to start fires utilizing the sun's rays. The last official celebration of Inti Raymi was in 1535, so it only lasted for about 120 years, whereafter Spanish colonists and their Catholic priests gave the whole mess a big no-no. So
I feel like if you're going to be offering the sun your chicha, the prone position should be face down, ass up.
I mean, they crouched down. It didn't specify how they crouched down or what was presented to the sun.
Burpees.
So, exactly.
I'm not gonna lie. I have no idea where llamas are from, but was the llamas bullshit?
No, it's true. They're from South America. They're the only air quotes beast of burden in that continent. Because
that's insulting to all the llama listeners out there.
I'm sorry, all of you mama llamas.
Exactly. I will save the drama for those llamas. Going north of the equator, we actually see quite a few more documented holidays that occur around winter solstice. Our first is directly north of South America, in North America, specifically the Zuni and Hopi peoples of New Mexico and Arizona, respectively. For the Zuni, the winter solstice signifies the beginning of a new year, which is marked with a ceremonial dance called the Shalako. I'm probably butchering it, but the Shalako. For several days prior to the solstice, the sun priest would fast, pray, and observe the rising and setting of the sun. The Shalako begins at the exact moment of the rebirth of the sun, which is announced by the sun priest with a long, mournful call. At that signal, the rejoicing and dancing begins, as 12 people in elaborate masks dance along with the Shalako themselves, which are 12-foot-high effigies with bird heads who are seen as messengers from the gods. After 4 days of dancing, new dancers are chosen for the following year, and the yearly cycle begins again. I guess they're chosen right at the end so that they can spend the whole year practicing to dance for 4 days straight.
There's a lot of choreography, okay?
Yeah.
There's a lot of moves to learn.
Exactly.
It's like a production of West Side Story off Broadway.
Whew. When you're Zuni, you're a Zuni all the way. I had to check my notes again.
Tell me more.
Wait a minute. That's Greece.
We just jumped over to Greece, yeah.
The Hopi in northern Arizona celebrates winter solstice somewhat similarly as the Zuni. In the celebration of Soyal, the sun chief takes on similar duties as the Zuni sun priest, but instead of announcing the sunrise, the sun chief instead announces the sunset. Once that occurs, an all-night ceremony begins with dancing and even sometimes gift-giving, which I thought was interesting. Moving on,
Is that really true since you find it interesting?
No, it is true. I thought
Usually the things you find interesting you are fibbing about.
No, it is true.
Okay.
I did like finding a lot of... I always find it interesting finding parallels between things that have no communication with each other. So when you have either cultures that as soon as the sun rises, they party, or as soon as the sun sets, they party, I always find that cool. And then whenever there's something that like gift giving, I always find interesting too.
Okay.
Our next holiday is the Chinese Dongzi, meaning winter arrives, which probably started as a harvest festival where farmers and fishermen took time off to spend time with their families. Even today, this is one of the celebrations where people from all around China will travel back home to celebrate with their families and welcome the return of longer days.
And bestow the dong.
Mm-hmm.
Hence
Bestow
the title.
the long dong. But in Japan, going across the Sea of Japan, the winter solstice does not have a celebration, but rather a traditional practice called toji, centered on starting the new year with health and good luck. People light massive bonfires to encourage the sun to return, with especially large bonfires being lit on Mount Fuji each December. In addition, people will take warm baths scented with yuzu, a type of citrus, which is said to ward off colds, I should have taken their advice, and foster good health. Even public bathhouses and hot springs would join in on this trend, throwing tons of yuzu into the water as well. The last one we'll briefly visit is an old Iranian, I don't know why I said Iranian.
Or Iranian.
Iranian celebration called Shab-i-Yalda, or Night of Birth. The Night of Birth was influenced by ancient Zoroastrian traditions and customs intended to protect people from evil spirits during the long night. People would gather together to protect each other, burn fires to light their way through the darkness, and perform charitable acts. Friends and family join in on making wishes while feasting on nuts, pomegranates, and other festive foods, and read poetry, particularly the 14th century Persian poet Hafiz. Some will stay awake all night to rejoice the moment the sun rises.
Can I call a Huber on whether or not they are doing charitable acts?
No, that is true. I don't
Okay.
know what exactly they meant by charitable acts, but they perform them. So I'm hoping everyone's feeling the holiday spirit now. After
yes.
learning after
without
learning
doubt.
I'm
that.
thrumming with it.
Good. Thrum harder. After learning that people of many different cultures practically did the same things, whether celebrating the sun's return the morning of or the night prior. These
My
traditions
chestnuts are roasting.
good, and we will be there to perform charitable acts on them.
I do find it strange that in the land of the rising sun, they are celebrating at nighttime.
Yeah, I did find that interesting as well.
But perhaps maybe whence comes the name?
You celebrate all night so that you can greet the rising sun.
Indeed.
Let's see here. These traditions and celebrations are cool and all, but I know you want to hear more about Christmas.
Not
because that's the whole-
particularly, but you know.
Sorry.
I'll make two.
And what influenced that holiday?
You'll be right.
We'll get to that one as well. This is where things begin to get a little bit convoluted and complicated. You see, contrary to what I had thought before doing research for this episode, I had thought Christmas was sort of invented to help spread Christianity faster within and on the periphery of the Roman Empire, and so co-opted aspects of other winter solstice traditions to make Christianity seem a bit more palpable for the pagans of the continent. While facets of that are true, like the Transformers of yesteryear, there's more than meets the eye. The historical community is somewhat divided on what really kickstarted the whole Christmas shebang. However, I would be remiss if I did not still talk about what I think are the top two major influences on early Christmas, and then move on from there. Before that, though, I'm going to talk a little bit about Hanukkah, which in my humble opinion more indirectly influenced Christmas than the other two. This is where, and I should have probably mentioned this above, I am not, nor will I ever be, a historian. And so I will probably miss great massive chunks of detail and nuance from the three following celebrations I'm going to talk about, just as I most certainly did for the other previous cultures. I'd say don't at me, but to be frank, I won't say no to any form of engagement, so chew me out by leaving a 5-star review or in the YouTube comments.
I like that you are actually attempting to co-opt Kanye's approach at this point, because now you're giving an come at me at the beginning of discussing a Jewish holiday.
Yes. Yes, I
Yikes.
am. Yeah. Well, I wrote this before that whole mess started. So that's neither here nor there. Anyway, moving on. While Hanukkah occurs close to Christmas most years, Christmas is not related to Hanukkah, as Hanukkah commemorates the victory that occurred during an ancient Hebrew revolt against their Roman occupiers. And Christmas is primarily about celebrating the birth of Christ. This is also when the miracle of the ritual olive oil that burned for 8 days instead of a single day that they had originally expected is celebrated. So there's two aspects of Hanukkah that are really important. We have the massive revolt, but then also in particular a specific event that happened within the revolt. So
Where they, beat back all of the invaders with dreidels?
Legal says I can't answer that question. So
Oh, of course, legal said it because the lawyers.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
I see what you're just talking about.
yeah, exactly. So since many more people are familiar with Hanukkah than the next two winter solstice celebrations I'm going to talk about, I'll only briefly touch upon some of the festivities, those similar to other holidays that we've looked at. Those who observe and celebrate Hanukkah can go about their days as usual, which I thought was interesting, which is, before you say anything, true. This is not a holiday where everyone has to drop what they are doing and do multi-day long feasts or anything like that. People are still encouraged to work and go about their days. It's only after the sun sets that they follow these rituals and festivities that Hanukkah is known for. The main ritual that is done is the lighting of the candles, one for the current day, plus one for each prior day of the holiday. Many families exchange gifts each night, and fried foods are preferred to be eaten to emphasize the importance of oil during the celebration. There's also a dreidel, like you mentioned, a four-sided spinning top that everyone plays.
Everyone?
I presume. I don't know if it's just a kid's game or not.
Everyone in Hollywood.
Yeah. Oh. Anyway,
There's
of
that
course,
twinge again. I can feel it.
Of course, there's a lot more that I'm missing, but I'm going to move on, assuming that we all know a bit about Hanukkah, either through friends, school, forms of media like TV, or even family, if you're Jewish.
Or Adam Sandler movies for
or
the
Eight
unacquainted.
Crazy Nights, which is, I find, a very great movie.
Well, I haven't seen it, nor have I talked to anybody of that persuasion for extended lengths of time about their particular festivities.
Well, that sounds to me like a personal foul.
I'm in the dark.
That's perfectly okay.
You should light some candles.
My first exposure to Hanukkah and its rich history was surprisingly through the Rugrats Hanukkah the Hanukkah special, because there were two specials, which I still enjoy to this day. I found it was actually a very interesting show to watch.
Oh, yeah, Rugrats is delightful.
Yeah, good.
Still on, but now it's all CGI.
Yeah, I tried watching it because we had my daughter watch it, and it wasn't the same because I enjoyed the animation style of the original Rugrats.
Yeah.
I won't say that it's bad, but it's just something that I'm not used to.
Okay, well, win me over. Is Mark Mothersbaugh still the one who's scoring it?
I don't think so. I don't know.
Doc,
I don't know.
You let me down. I thought of anybody who would know some random esoteric music factoid. You would have gone with me there.
Lo siento.
But, okay.
Lo siento.
All right.
Oof.
Well, I'll allow it.
So, our first holiday that has more of a direct influence on Christmas is Saturnalia. Saturnalia is an ancient Roman festival and holiday. Yes, Shane?
I like that that's the title of our upcoming album, and you still feel the need to mispronounce it. But
Well, then enlighten me so I can pronounce it correctly.
no, I enjoy watching you
Okay.
flounder. It's fun.
Saturnalia. Saturnalia. This ancient Roman is an ancient Roman festival and holiday in honor of the god Saturn, which starts on the 17th of December and lasted for up from 3 days to a week, depending on the period of Roman history you look at. They did actually vary the period or length of the festivity, whether you're looking at the Republic, whether you're looking at the Empire, and so on. Like I just said. Why is it called this word that I won't speak again? In Roman mythology, Saturn was an agricultural deity who reigned over the earth during what was called the Golden Age, a time when humans enjoyed plentiful bounties of the earth without any labor required at all, while living in a state of blissful innocence. Woo, that's a big difference. While living in a state of innocence.
We've all lived in a state of blissful ignorance, though.
Yes.
Guaranteed.
Not a care in the world and free food whenever. Just sign me up. So, I'm just going to say it because I have it written a lot. Saturnalia was all about trying to return to those carefree days of a younger Earth, even for a little while, so that all could feel the joy and comfort that were plentiful in that bygone age. Anyway, the holiday starts with a sacrifice at the temple of Saturn, located in Rome, followed by a days-long public banquet, during which there'd be private gift-giving, continual partying, and a carnival-like atmosphere that encouraged breaking of Roman customs and societal norms. To quote from the chronograph of 354, a compilation of chronological and calendrical, which I learned was a word, text produced for a wealthy Roman Christian in 354, quote, "Rampant overeating and drunkenness became the rule, and a sober person the exception." Sounds like my kind of party. Sorry. This celebration was seen as a time of liberty for both slaves and freedmen alike, which is shown primarily in the reversal of roles between masters and their slaves. Masters had to provide table service for their slaves as an example.
Is this bullshit?
No, this was actually something that was heavily encouraged, that you broke these norms and that, for even a couple of days, the masters have to serve the slaves. And not only that, but slaves were given additional temporary freedom and treated as equals. Not just the slaves were freed, but the working people too. Businesses and schools were closed so that everyone could participate in the holidays' festivities. This was really a celebration for everyone within Roman society. And what other sort of debaucherous things occurred? Well, gambling was permitted for and encouraged by everyone, from the richest senator to the poorest slave, which is pretty dope. Some slaves saw it as a good way to game their masters and try and earn some coins and nuts in the process.
I'm not thinking gambling was encouraged.
It was.
Really?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah. That was actually a part of the quote that I gave. I cut off the earlier part, which talked about slaves gaming their masters and everything like that.
Because, you know, it's important to take the game to the players.
Exactly. Power to the players, too.
Hercules.
My favorite part of the holiday is one we'll see in later iterations of Christmas. The election of a, quote, king of the Saturnalia. This king, or ruler as the title is often referred to, was the master of ceremonies for the holiday, and all of their orders were expected to be followed to the T. Commands like sing naked or throw him into cold water had to be obeyed without question, no matter how ridiculous.
Sounds like a family reunion for me, but...
Sing naked! I already am.
And throw him in the water, yes.
Yeah. Ooh.
See if he floats.
Cold here. He's a duck!
Set him on fire!
Oh, no! Good thing he's still wet. Speaking of Christmas, I mentioned the act of gift giving taking place during the holiday. This gift giving mostly happened on the 19th of December, called Sigillaria. Although some households would give gifts throughout the whole holiday.
Some households also do give gifts as well.
The households are treated as equals, and, you know, I don't want to continue with that line of thought.
You spread joy. It's great.
Exactly. However you can.
Sadly.
However you can. Contrary to what we would perceive as good presents nowadays, the ancient Romans decided to go with the exact opposite. Gifts were meant to be gags, like gag gifts. They were meant to be given as gag gifts, not to gag on. Before I said anything else.
Oh, we're not talking about vomitoriums then. Okay.
No. Consisting of cheap pottery or wax figurines, or simple things like candles, dice, etc. Since there was an overarching theme of equality, gifts of value were discouraged since they would mark social status contrary to the spirit of the season.
So this is white elephant
like
gifts.
White elephant, exactly.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's
Yes.
exactly what I was going to say too.
But everyone, you got white elephant gifts for everyone instead of just like a single person.
Everyone?
Everyone.
That's expensive.
Well, probably not everyone, but everyone you know.
There would be a lot less people around you back then, I'm sure.
Yeah, because they all were dying. Yeah, exactly. A Roman poet by the name of Marcus Valerius Martialis, aka Martial, even suggests in ancient texts that the value of the gift was inversely related to the value of the friendship. The best friendships would share the cheapest gift, and so on. Even patrons, or bosses as we understand them today, would pass on a gratuity to their poorer clients and or dependents to help them buy gifts, kind of like a Christmas bonus. To connect this millennia-old celebration to our modern-day one, personally written poetry had to accompany the gifts. For those who couldn't write poetry, whether because of the volume of gifts they needed to give or because they were just really bad at it, specialized shops would spring up during this holiday called Aula Markham, which would give away pre-written poems for free, kind of just like in the spirit of giving. And that was, I didn't really have a good way of ending that sort of description of the holiday, but once the holiday ends, you would go about your business, you know, everything would go back to normal. All that
Return to your homes. Nothing to see here.
Yeah.
All
right.
Drop your poems.
You can't stay here, but
Drop your poems and leave me alone. Let's get out of here.
That's right. Closing time, ladies and gentlemen.
Yep.
Time for you to go home. So finish your whiskey or beer.
Let's leave Dan out of this, please. He's a marvelous man, and I don't want to torment him any longer.
So, with all that merriment and celebration and fun times, let's take a journey away from this Mediterranean climate and head north, and keep heading north until we're in the lands outside of Roman civilization, to a different collection of cultures that we call Germanic. Stretching from obviously Germany up through Scandinavia, these groups of people worshipped similar gods, ones whose names we remember when the words Norse and/or Viking come to mind: Odin, Freya, Yor, Yggdrasil, Midgard, etc., etc. This culture had their own celebrations for the winter solstice, one that we call Yule. However, and this is where I must disappoint everyone, I could not find a cohesive source on Yule itself. Everywhere I looked, either found modern-day celebrations of Yule from either a Wiccan, pagan, or even a LaVeyan Satanist perspective, but nothing on what constituted an ancient Yule celebration. The only knowledge that we have about Yule comes from two main areas.
Balls?
Either balls and the penis. Either through the traditions
there's
that...
two balls, Michael. I mean...
Yeah, one produces a boy, the right one, if I recall, and the left one produces girls. Exactly.
Yeah, it's just science.
Mm-hmm. That's why you gotta lop off the left one. Anyway,
Disurrection is about the people.
So either through the traditions that Christmas has adopted, which we'll cover later on, or through long-form stories called sagas. What I can tell you is disjointed, but what can you expect from a hack and a fraud like myself? I'm so proud I said fraud and not frog. I will be primarily talking about the Norse interpretation of Yule, since there are variations within broad culture groups like the Celts of pre-Roman France, Ireland, and Britain, those who practice the Romuva religion of the southeast Baltic Sea region, and even the Germanic peoples of modern-day Germany. All practice something akin to Yule, but since I'm more familiar with Norse mythology, I chose there to focus on.
Mm-hmm.
First, we must attempt to... wow, that was a lot of firsts. First, we must attempt to put ourselves in the place of these people, long before the fad of piracy and raiding Western Europe, because Vikings didn't really start until the 700s. Before then, they just lived there. They didn't decide to go raiding, England and the coasts of France and all that other stuff. So up here in Norway and Sweden, all you got are fjords and trees, and more fjords and more trees, and even fjords with trees on them. This is close enough to the Arctic Circle that some groups of people might even lose the sun for several days. So, given the previous winter solstice celebrations, one might presume pre-Christmas Yule was more about surviving the long night. As such, the festivities were probably more about feasts, drinking, and sacrifices.
I like feist. I don't want to do anything that's remotely, problematic or endanger her life.
Sacrifices is the correct term that
yes.
I wanted to use, yes. Of which the Norse are particularly known for. Specifically, blood sacrifices, or blots, if you want to know more. My particular favorite of Norse blood sacrifice are called blood eagles, of which the movie Midsummer shows pretty realistically, if I recall correctly.
Yes, it does.
Yes.
It's delightful.
Mm-hmm. Fly away. He was like a bird. One of the main traditions that were found all throughout Europe was the tradition of the Yule log, a massive log cut from an equally massive tree that would mark the length of Yule, which was typically 12 days. I don't know if you've ever tried burning massive wooden logs, but those fuckers take forever to burn. And given the previously explained geography these people lived in, I'm sure it wouldn't be hard to find a big enough tree that would stay lit for 12 days.
I mean, it's not the size that matters.
It's about how you use it. It's actually more about the girth. You're right.
No, it's how long it burns.
Also true. One saga, the saga of Håkon the Good, a king of Norway who Christianized his country in the 10th century, mentions some pagan Yule practices from a Christian perspective. Essentially, the town would gather at their temple, and during the feast, livestock and horses would be sacrificed, and their blood would be gathered into a vessel of some sort. Twigs would also be gathered to dip into the vessel, and then sprinkle, their words not mine, sprinkle, all over the temple, from the pedestals of the gods to within the walls, inside and out, to the people within the walls. So, sorry, not that. to the people that are
I'm sorry,
inside
sprinkling what?
blood.
So
they
we're
would
just
take
flipping blood everywhere.
they would get all the blood out into vessels, stick twigs in it, and just sprinkle it everywhere.
Like opening sequence of Blade.
Yes, but yeah, yes, everywhere,
Yes. Mhm.
everywhere.
Yes.
Mhm.
Yes.
Let's see here. The meat was not wasted, as it too was added to the feast, having been blessed by the chieftain. Toasts were then made, first to the All-Father Odin, quote, for victory and power to the king. The second toast was made to the gods Njordur and Freyr, for good harvest and for peace, and the third to the king. Additional toasts were made in the memory of departed kinsfolk. There are also other traditions associated with Yule, but since they are closely connected with Christmas traditions, I felt it would make sense to cover those in more detail when we look at Christmas traditions. And those are going to happen next time in part 2 and 3. In part 2, we'll look at some ideas as to how Christmas got started and look at probably the best iteration of Christmas, the medieval one. So, with that, do we have any other attempts at lies?
Was the whole blood splattering bit a lie?
No, they do like their blood. That was all true.
Quite a lot, actually.
Very true.
Well, I know that they like their blood. I was just surprised that it would happen towards this whole Yule bit.
Is the celebrating your lost kinfolk, is that one a fibber?
No, that is true.
They don't strike
Norse
me as sentimental.
No, surprisingly, that's where the idea of sagas come from, because a lot of these sagas are commemorating past kinsfolk.
Okay.
There's also the idea of runestones, where like really powerful chieftains and stuff that just recently inherited their dominion from, say, their dad or something like that, would commemorate their dad by crafting a giant runestone, which would be like a massive chunk of rock that they would just place somewhere and carve out their story of their father or some sort of commemoration of.
Okay.
Yeah. So they were surprisingly a lot about remembering past kin.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Any other stabs?
No, I got nothing.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm fairly well stymied.
So the first one was kind of it isn't a number lie, it's a date lie. So I mentioned, how merry can I be when I'm spending a metric fuck ton on gifts and new decorations, which are only up for about a month or so on average in the US. That is a lie. Typical decorations for Christmas aren't up for about a month. They're usually put up about 2.5 weeks before Christmas.
That's a number lie.
It's more of a date. But
I was gonna say
no,
it's
because
also
you're talking
just
about the amount. You're talking about the length of time. So I'm not, it's not a date lie as in like, from December 12th to this time. It wasn't a month. It's only 2 weeks.
Plus, everybody knows you only, keep your lights up 3 days past Three Kings Day.
I mean, that was actually something I read a lot about in later in later parts.
Oh, that's frightening.
They're not listed because I just got overwhelmed with. Well, you can keep them up until Epiphany, but if you don't put them down by Epiphany, then you can leave them up until this other date, which you can bring them down. But if you don't bring them down then, that's when it gets really suspicious. And I'm like, why do people care? Yes, inauspicious, sorry. Different word. But it was just like...
I think he left them up all year long.
I just don't understand. Like... I take mine down whenever I feel like it. Actually, they're not even up because I don't care about setting them.
I don't put lights up at all. So
no,
that's
no. I only really do it for.
I admittedly put the house into a bit of a Christmas
in a sparkly state
vibe. Yeah, and historically, always have too. Even before Cordelia, I would that make the house look a little bit like Kris Kringle vomited all over it.
That's fair. I mean, we set up a tree. And I took like the rail that goes like up the stairs and I decorated that. Yeah, exactly. But I don't care about decorating outside. I don't give a shit if my neighbors.
I had a little like a tabletop Christmas tree that consistently stayed out for about 3 years. Just because I would never get around to taking him out, and by the time I'd be like, "Oh, I should probably deal with that," I'd be like, "It's October. Shit, it's only like another month and a half until he's got to be back out."
So. Let it roll.
Exactly.
That's right.
No, I had something like that when I was living in the dorms. I had the Charlie Brown Christmas tree, and I still have somewhere. A little tiny, like 2 feet tall. I would just set it up somewhere, and then I forgot about it for months. So
Same,
I feel it.
same. Yeah, I had a vivisected elf on the shelf that I just had, approximations of entrails dangling out of for
Hell yeah,
all year round, just
That's
as a
metal as
reminder.
fuck. There you go. As a reminder, no one else.
I like to do the blood eagle with the elf on the shelf. And it's...
I mean, it's great practice. It's great practice.
Okay, well, tell us about your other hackneyed and poor taste lies here, Michael.
All right, so
3
we
more
got
to
the
go.
month. I wrote that according to the many documents written by the Spanish conquistadors in the area, who took great pains to chronicle the Incan Empire as it collapsed, that is a complete lie. The Spanish actually went so far as to destroy already written documents chronicling a lot of the lives and culture of all of their subjects that they destroyed. They didn't think it was necessary to record the history and culture because they weren't Christian and they weren't Spanish.
None of those
So why bother?
savages anyways, yeah.
Exactly.
Mhm.
One Spaniard, his nickname is El Inca. I don't want to try and pronounce his name. But his nickname is El Inca, was one of the primary chroniclers of the Incan Empire, taking upon himself to record the history. One of the main reasons why he actually cared is because his mom was actually born of elite Incan society. His father was a conquistador and his mom was, upper crust Inca. So by virtue of him being related, that's probably the main reason why he gave a shit. So he chronicled a lot of the information that we know about at least the Incan Empire, and in particular the Inti Raymi that I talked about.
All right, sorry, bear with me here. What was the lie then?
So the lie was that the Spanish recorded things.
Yeah, they did not care about having.
They didn't give a
reverence.
shit.
Yes, yes.
That's what I thought the lie was. But then,
He's-
the El Inca guy was a Spaniard that you're
So-
talking about, right?
I said the many documents written by the Spanish conquistadors in the area who took great pains to chronicle it. It was one person more after the fact that started chronicling things as the empire had already, after the empire had already collapsed.
And I also don't imagine that the conquistador had developed a relationship with the individual that he was whelped upon. Presumably, this was a by force kind of scenario here.
Yes,
Well, I don't know about that. They gave him kind of a badass nickname, El Inca. I mean,
yeah, I
It
don't know.
sounds
He
like
probably
a
gave it
tattoo
himself,
artist
but-
in Spain.
So he was raised by his mother. He left when he was of age to travel back to Spain to try and get some sort of recognition on his father's side because his father was very important. And he just became a chronicler and he just wrote a bunch of things. But yeah, so he also kind of served in the army and stuff like that, but I didn't really want to read too much into his history.
Okay.
But yeah, El Inca. Let's see here. The next lie was where is it? I just want to make sure. Okay, yes. So Hanukkah, I mentioned that it commemorated the victory that occurred during an ancient Hebrew revolt against the Roman occupiers. Rome was a lie. It wasn't the Roman occupiers that they were revolting against. It was actually the Seleucid Empire that they fought against in the 2nd century BCE.
These are the makers of all of our aqueous, waterways or slides.
Yes.
The sluices.
The Seleucids.
Okay.
The Seleucid Empire, yes.
Okay.
For the Seleucids, for those unaware, were a successor state to Alexander the Great. When Alexander died with no heir, his empire was split by his generals, with the Macedonian general Seleucus controlling much of what we call the Middle East, from Syria to in the west to Pakistan and Afghanistan, in the east, and then some. So during the time of when Hanukkah occurred, essentially, the Hebrews were revolting against the Seleucid Empire, which had controlled the Judaica at the time. So yeah, it was a lie in that regard. I think there's something with the Maccabees, but again, I'm not going to try and delve too much into it because I don't want to seem
Also,
so,
I mean, there's a number of individuals who had lined up to abuse for millennia here, so
yeah,
hard to keep straight after a while.
Very true. Their story is a lot like the Polish in regards of they're just an unfortunate people that just have to deal with a lot of things.
the Polish and unfortunate people.
Terrible choice of words.
Yeah. It's unfortunate all the struggles that they had to go through is what I'm trying to say. If I had any command over the English language and legal is telling me to close my mouth.
It's
Moving
okay.
on.
You're just sympathizing. You do not approve of any jokes about the Polish people.
No, not at all.
And you denounce them all vigorously.
The jokes, not the people.
Correct.
Yes. Mm-hmm. It is a no. So the last lie, I mentioned that for these gifts, for Saturnalia, they would have to have personally written poetry to accompany them.
Okay, that
and then,
felt a little wonky, and
to go even further, the
stores are also not. Yeah,
yes.
I was thinking that was bullshit
Markham,
at the time. Yeah,
Alla Markham is Latin for hallmark.
So literally, the only reason why I didn't call bullshit was because you stumbled over that word, mumbles, and so I figured he couldn't have made a lie about this because if he had made a lie about it, he'd pronounce it without issue. But you stumbled over it, so I was like, oh, okay, he's having trouble with it. It must be a real thing. Don't call a lie.
No, see, that's where you're wrong. I just stumble over everything. Exactly.
Let's just go get our treats down there from the poetry barn, and we'll just take them out to everybody.
Mm-hmm. There was poetry that would occasionally accompany gifts, but as far as I could find, there was no other mention of businesses that actually took advantage of it.
Pop-up shops, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So,
very
and that is
concept. Can't believe I let that slide.
Well, but marketplaces do happen.
And you stumbled on the word, and I was like, okay, don't call bullshit then, Mike, because he struggled.
Don't take pity on my inability to pronounce words. It won't help you.
It's not pity for me. I just get battered into a place where my brain just no longer really cognates what you're saying.
I know that's what you deal with. This is episode 174. I understand.
Indeed. Yes.
Yeah. So, but it's
only second time on the show, but I have listened to all 174 episodes, so it's not just Shane that's been
I know
battered into submission.
And frankly, Michael's battered himself because he has to edit these things. So
I know
every foible is just
well, I mean, he opened the show by saying that he beats himself. So
indeed, he's just not always cognizant of the things he's mispronouncing until we point it out to him. So
I do think it was clever though, going with the Hallmark bit.
I was proud of that one.
There.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
I was proud.
It was clever.
So, that
all right
was part one.
So that brings this episode to a close, just like a greeting card, which is quite ironic, don't you think?
Love me.
All right.
$20 bill taped to it because I couldn't bother to get you an actual gift.
See. Okay. Well, also, to honor the start of the episode, I will say that this saga is going to be a bit of a jagged little pill to swallow. But I'm sure that we are just going to work our way through it. You live, you learn. And so, I think that's going to officially wrap this rascal up like a gift, ready to be hurled beneath a dead fur. And speaking of furries, that is, we're here for all of your adoration, obviously. And so I would like to say, if you haven't already subscribed to the show, please do so. It allows us to get to you unfettered, unencumbered. And that's what we like. Don't want to have anything, separating us.
Unwrapped, if you will.
Yes. Ooh. Raw dog us, if you dare. And then, of course,
him on
that. As Michael often begs, please rate and review, because, of course, we would love to hear from you. And in the show notes, we've got a link tree to all of our relevant and irrelevant socials, so you can go scope us out there and engage as you will. But I think that officially gives us the close, and so that is going to be the Disinformed podcast this week. And I am Shane.
And I'm Michael.
You did it so brilliantly organically the first time. And now we're going to do the bad Ghostbusters bit of we're ready to believe you. So we're going to do a countdown now to make it easier on Michael to edit. So 3, 2, 1.
And I'm Michael.
Son of a hope. All right, zippity zoop, we're out of here. Fuck.